Welcome to the Fractured Families podcast. I'm Charity, a dedicated parental alienation coach here to support and advocate for families navigating the challenges of high conflict divorce and custody disputes. I'm here to shed light on the struggles many families face, offering insights, strategies, and hope for those seeking justice and healing. In each episode, I'll explore real-life stories, expert advice, and practical solutions to help rebuild and strengthen the bond that holds families together. Whether you're personally affected or looking to understand more about these complex issues, you're not alone. I'm here to walk you down this path. Come join me as I navigate the complexities of family law, share inspiring journeys of resilience, and advocate for meaningful reform and the pursuit of family unity. This is the Fractured Families podcast, where every voice matters and every story counts. Just wanted to say hi and introduce myself, and thank you for joining our podcast. This is a podcast that basically talks about parental alienation, parents that have been targeted, and how it's impacting you. So we're looking forward to hearing your story and talking about what happened and answer any questions.
It's awesome. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
I'd like to start with just a little bit of you telling me what happened, how you got here, what's going on, and then where you think it's headed.
Well, I guess we'll start right before my partner had asked me for a divorce. It was kind of a traumatic time. I don't know if you read the script that I sent, but we have 6 kids. So it's a large family. It's all, same mom, same dad. So it's not mixed or anything. But right at the time where my partner asked for a divorce, I'd also just my mom had passed away. I just buried her, and it was all within a week. So I think right from the very beginning, there was a lot of background intentions and emotions and stuff that really brought and kind of set the stage for everything that was going to happen from then till now. So starting with that, and that was that would have been mid-August of 2020, it was we had decided that we were going to split. She approached me with the notion of it right when I got back from the funeral. And as you know, 2020, that was the beginning of COVID and stuff. So it was already, everybody was high tense and tensile and stuff with it. So taking the family for the funeral and stuff, that caused a little bit of division and stuff there as well. And then even that whole time period while we were dealing with the divorce, it was oh, I got kidney stones. I'm having problems at home. I need you to come home. I need you to come look after me and the kids and this. And it was I was arranging a funeral at the same time. So it was it kind of felt like there was a lot of distraction of my attention from something where it's you do have family that's close. Can you pull in some resources and kind of help us get through this time, right? So moving from there, it was a bit strenuous. Once we kind of decided that we were going to split, we let the kids and stuff know. The house that we had was large, so I still stayed in the house for about another 6 months.
Okay.
And it was weird. We'd been together married 10 years. Just navigating that time was difficult. The kids, we were trying to hold it together just to kind of keep a bit of normality in their lives. I was still working working shift work, so I was 2 weeks at home, 2 weeks at work. And then towards Christmas, that's where things started to really disintegrate. I would get on shift, and then really the text messages and the ranting and stuff would start, which was very emotionally hard to handle, especially working night shifts and stuff like that, far away from home, unable to handle situations. So by Christmas, I had decided that I was going to move out. So I got a place. We're in Cold Lake, so we were in Cherry Grove, which is just an outside community. I moved into town, rented a place, got everything situated, and then we started taking the kids on a shared basis. When I would come off shift, I would take the kids as best as I could. For myself, it was a lot to handle between moving and learning how to parent by yourself and stuff like that. And then that kind of progressed where I felt the need to come back home and work. So I ended up working locally. I did that for a couple years, where we started with the court proceedings. And we were able to push it. Like, she wasn't happy about it, but like, we got ordered a 50-50 schedule. That was through quite a bit of deliberations through the court, but we did get there. And like, being that, one person looking after 6 young children at the time, like, it was 6 under 6, like, they were all small. We had worked out a schedule where it was kind of like 2 for a week, 4 for a week, 2 for a week, 6 for a week, 2 for a week, 4 for a week, and then none. Which seemed to be working out for the time period. And then we kept on moving with that schedule until about, it would have been the winter of 2021. Doing that, like, my ex, she had decided that like, she approached me with like moving to a week and a week with all the 6 kids. So I agreed to that. There had been some other things that had kind of started to get difficult, because I was still trying to manage a 5-day-a-week job, take the kids, and then just little things that were starting to make it difficult. Like, she had canceled the childcare for the youngest 2, which I didn't find out until last minute, and then the childcare facility didn't realize that I didn't know, and then filled the spots. So that was kind of left to me to figure out childcare and stuff for our youngest 2, so I could still continue to work. And then I was able to actually get our youngest 2 into the French immersion school, which had before and after school care. And at the time when I did that, she did agree to it. And then later on, she did retract it and then pull the kids out of school. So moving them to a different school. So that was kind of really, like, there'd always been bickering between her and I, but that was when she started to really forcibly push her weight around to where she wanted it to go, and then pretty much always left me trailing to either adapt to what had changed or find a different solution. So, but the Christmas of 2021, we did have an incident where, we were at, now I'm starting to get lost to the years. There was a Christmas there where we had some issues where one of the kids got smacked, and it wasn't by anything of my means, but it was like a friend's grandmother. One of the kids got a little too pushy with her, and she kind of pushed him away, and then that has been kind of a haunting situation, because that led to an emergency protection order and the removal of the kids, and a lot of stuff happened after that event. That pretty much from there, we had gone through about a year of court proceedings to just maintain 4 days with the kids. So then we went to a 10 and 4 schedule. And that was just under, I would say, extreme exercise caution by the courts, is what I believe was said. Because
Okay.
there was a lot of allegations and stuff that came out of it. So that's been kind of the real head to it, is it's really, it didn't matter what allegation came forward, if there was truth to it or not, it was always
Right.
heard as truth. So
Right.
we dealt with that, and then we've been maintaining that schedule of 10 and 4. That was under direction of my lawyer. She had said that, let's let everything kind of calm down. Let's take a breath, step back, see where everything goes, and then we can push back for another application to try and return you back to your 50-50.
Right.
So, and in between there, like, I think a lot of what sparked the fighting at the beginning was also, I applied for You're out of California, or where are you
Right.
out of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in
So
California.
okay. So in Alberta, Canada, children we get child tax credits and child benefits and stuff like that. So the children to her under full subsidy is worth $4,400 a month. So the same Christmas that everything fell apart, the 21st, she'd also been informed by the Canadian Revenue Agency that I had applied for my share of the child benefits, which then essentially took that 4,400 and split it into 22 for her.
Right.
And then it had kind of gotten ugly because she had never reported that we had gone to a 50-50 custody. So then they pulled back the 6 months that she had falsely been receiving the benefits. So there was, I think it was just a situational advantage that she was able to take between what happened at Christmas, the knowledge of me applying for my benefits, and then her applying for the emergency protection order. So that did lead to a lot of chaos. It's been definitely ever since that tipping point, the battle it just amplifies all the time. And really, in the last, since this summer, like the courts have assigned the children their own lawyer. So because her and I are so far apart on the information that we're bringing to the courts, the courts did decide that it would be beneficial to have the children have their own lawyer to at least have somewhat of a voice. And that started when my oldest children, I believe, were 9, and they're 11 now. So there's been multiple times that they have seen their lawyer. So this summer, there was a report that was ordered by the courts for their lawyer to do, which required us to take the kids up and go through and do an interview process with their lawyer. At which time, the report that came out, I kind of felt, and like even when I had stepped into my lawyer's office to review the document that the kid's lawyer had prepared, she looked at me at that moment and she's like, "You're not going to like what's been said. You can definitely tell that this entire document's been coached, and I'm very upset with the lawyer that's doing it because he should be able to catch this stuff."
Right.
And even reading the entire document, it came down. It pretty much, if you sat my ex's affidavit and the kid's statement side by side, they almost read exactly the same. So
Right.
really at that point, like when you've had the kids taken away, you've had reduced visiting time, you're constantly dealing with allegation after allegation. Like by the time we gotten to this point, I had been investigated for several sexual assault allegations that were all unfounded. And then I was kind of left with a choice. Like, do we keep on fighting? Do we just let this go? Because it's like you already have a good grasp on the kids to the point where they will repeat what you want them to repeat. Like, what are we fighting for anymore? So at that point, we had to go to court this September 12th, which I had kind of said to my lawyer, I'm like, I'm kind of finished. I'm getting towards the end of my financial break here where like there's not going to be enough left to keep on fighting anyways. So let's sit down and give her an ultimatum. Like either let me walk away with whatever I have left. We're done. Forget that I'm in your life, or start parenting with. Like there's no point in me just being there for 4 days a month. Like it's just a free babysitter for mom. So we had put forward an offer to her and her lawyer after we had adjourned from the courts, and then that's when everything came apart. Like we put the offer on the table, she accepted one of the offers, and then the next day she retracted all the offers, and then by the Thursday when I had to pick up the kids, her lawyer had quit, she's already on to, I think, her seventh lawyer or something like that now. He had quit, and then I went to pick up the kids because even though we're still in negotiations, everything still stays the same. The kids weren't there. So at that point, I then, like, our court order is police enforceable. So then I at that point then contacted the police, where they informed me that they weren't going to help me because I was now back under investigation again. And she had fled to a town to the southern part of the province and filed another emergency protection order. So now we're kind of back and forth. Like, I haven't seen the kids since the beginning of September. My understanding is she's completely moved and enrolled them in a new school, got them set up with all new lives under the protection of this emergency protection order that she has. So now we're left fighting back and forth, and then we go back to court at the beginning of November here. So hopefully we can see a bit of a resolution out of it, because essentially she's in breach of the last court order, and she's broken a lot of processes, which hopefully, like, and I think that's what happens with everybody when you get involved with this. You always hold on to some kind of hope that you're going to see something work out in your favor. So it's just, let's get to the next date, see where we're.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I know it's a pile of information, but it's a big timeline. So we're
for sure.
We're approaching year 5 now.
So let me ask you a few questions. How old were the kids when this all started?
So 11, 10. My oldest would have been 6. And my youngest would have been 1.
So they're little. Just at the time in 2020, they were still pretty young.
Yeah. Like my 2 youngest weren't even in school yet. My middle 2, they had just started pre-kindergarten, and the older ones were in grade 1.
And did she, when this first started, the separation happened, is she employed, or was she employed at any point?
The whole time that we've had kids, she hasn't been employed. There were time periods where, like, in the younger years, where she did work waitressing jobs, but a lot of those never did last long. Like, I say, like, waitressing as a whole, she did for quite a while, but just it was from one place to the next. So, and then just the way economy-wise worked out, like, it seemed like it made more sense to keep her at home to manage the house than it was to spend the money to drive 45 minutes to go to work. So really, throughout the time period, no, pretty much stay-at-home mom.
And so it changed probably in 2021, and that was because of the incident. Has she ever started dating again throughout any of this, or is she in a relationship?
Yeah. So when we first split, she was dating within, I'd say, the first week of us being split up, which really, I'm not like, looking back now, like, I always kind of try to analyze how things played out. I don't know if that was a cry for attention to try to fix it before things got too far, or what the deal was there, but it seemed pretty odd, which kind of pushed it out for me. Well, it's like, okay, well, if that's the way we're playing this game now, I guess we're moving on. I started seeing someone, I'd say, about a month and a half after everything kind of split. I haven't lived with anybody since. I know she had dated, and then she's had one serious relationship that was after that. I knew him from just with association, different friends in town and stuff. I didn't mind chatting with him. He seemed like he was pretty good, but it just seemed like it was always on again, off again. There'd been a few folks and stuff in between, and then from my understanding, she's been seeing another fellow from, well, where she is now, southern Alberta, and they've been together for about a year and a half.
And do you have so that relationship with that that partner of hers, do you have any communication with them about the kids or his relationship with the children? Or are you completely excluded from that and she doesn't care about your input at all with that relationship?
I would say they're pretty minimal. I know the last one that she had, like the one that I said that was kind of on again, off again, and then the from our local area, I would chat with him here and there. I know when they would split up, sometimes we would run into him because like he had two kids as well. We'd run into their kids at the beach and stuff, and I would chat with him while the kids played and stuff. But really, as like another co-parent, not involved at all. Like it would just be pleasantries when we'd pick up the kids and then move on. This current relationship, it was thrown out as an offer once. I never took it, but other than that, I've never spoken to this other person. Anytime we've done exchanges, kind of the feeling that I get is more like they're there to monitor me, to make sure that, I don't know if it's to collect evidence or how I have been portrayed to them, but it's definitely not the warm, fuzzy kind of feeling of, hey, I'm a new parent in your kids' lives. Let's get to know each other. That's never happened. So I know.
Now, what are the kids like? When you see the kids, well, you haven't since September, but prior to September, what was it like when you would see the children? How did they behave? How were they with you?
Well, as I kind of explained to my lawyer and stuff, it's like I have 4 days of try to cram everything into one little spot. And the first 2 days was, let's get everybody on to dad's schedule, dad's expectations, let's get everybody cleaned up. And it was 2 days of pretty much maintenance just to have the kids functioning in my house. And then usually by the third day, everybody's tired. It's so, because I have them Thursday afternoon till Monday mornings for schools, because like our communication's broken down to the point where we use school as the exchange point, and then in the summer times we have to meet in a public place just because of the way the court orders ended up working. So yeah, like the first 2 days are very busy. I have a different expectation on hygiene. So usually those first 2 days, like the first day I have one daughter and she has hair that comes down to her mid-back, and most of the time it takes me, I'd say, a good hour just to brush out the matting and do the hair and get everything cleaned up. The other kids, it'll be nails and baths and just kind of bringing them up to that expectation.
Yeah.
And then it's usually the battle of trying to get everybody at an early bedtime. I don't know. I asked the kids, but like they're young. You can only take so much of it because like I don't believe they have this good perception of time. But like it's I try to have everybody. My routine is to have supper at 5. We have a relax between 6 and 7, and then once 7, usually about 6:30, I've started baths and getting everybody cleaned and settled down for the night. And 7:30 is like, okay, you're in bed, you're having your quiet time, and then I'll go from kid to kid to kind of say their good nights, and then the youngest ones, I pretty much have to stay in their rooms to make sure that it's like, okay, you stay in bed, calm down, go to sleep. It's very, very hectic. And then really by the last day, it's like everybody's leveled out, everything's good. It's like, well, what was the point of that? I'm sending you away.
Yeah. Yeah. Now they got to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely a handful, but we do try to cram in as much as we can.
So what has this financial burden been like for you? And are you paying child support?
I would say in the 5 years that I've done this, I've already peaked over $100,000 in legal fees. And that's still to maintain my home. In the beginning, she had it worked out where I was paying her something like $4,000 a month in support. And then I was trying to start my own home and move on. Really, when I walked away with everything that I had when I came into the marriage, and that was it. no finances, no money. The only thing I had was my job, my tools, and some family heirlooms. There was a saying that I heard, and even crackheads that get up every morning and say, how am I going to get my fix? I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm getting my fix somehow. So it's been good. Work, like I'm a heavy equipment technician by trade, so there is quite a demand for my skill set, which has been a blessing. So I've been able to maintain a good, steady income coming in. But still, like, you're renting a home, that's $1,500 a month, and then you got a vehicle, having the kids, that meant getting a van, getting that all set up. Some of the advantages of being technically capable is the maintenance costs are low, but yeah. And then I've taken on the responsibility for the last couple of years for all the school supplies. And I think this year was $1,800 just for school supplies. And then, like, they have their hot lunches and stuff. I try, like, when there is extra, I try to make sure the kids get their hot lunches. It's been not too bad, like, for extracurricular, but at school. But definitely, I'd say, I would say extracurricular, like field trips and stuff like that. That's been about 50-50. And then I know this year was kind of frustrating because I wanted to send the kids to summer camp, and pretty much the reply I got was the only way they're going to summer camp is if you pay for it. So I think that was $2,600 just to send them to summer camp. And then that turned out to be a disaster too, because one of the kids got in a fight and they had called her. And by the time the camp director had called me, she was busy crying and exclaiming that we're not meant to deal with your children like this. I don't know what your wife's problem is. Come pick up your kids. And I don't think she understood that there was a split up situation, and I'm 4 hours away. So it took probably about an hour on the phone to calm down the camp director and explain to her, like, okay, I'm sorry, this isn't, I guess after 10 years, I got used to putting out her fires, so it wasn't a big deal for me, but still frustrating.
Yeah.
Where, like I'm across the province away from my kids at work and still able to solve the problem that she had created to have one of my friends go pick up my kids and solve out a solution that really should have been solved on her time. So, yeah, and go back to finances. Yeah, clothes. I've mostly been looking after. There was a bit of a time period there where when she had pulled one of her EPOs, I got pretty upset, so I had canceled her. I never have canceled the kids' medical care from my end, but I did cancel hers, even though she had her own, because she claimed she was working for one of the banks. She had her own for a bit. She had gone into the court and falsely said that I canceled all the medical, which I then explained to the judge that no, I just canceled her, which then his response was, even though you were split, you were still legally married, so therefore you were still legally responsible for her. And so that really, as much as it was frustrating, it didn't financially didn't cost any matter. It was just kind of the point of, okay, like, she has no responsibility for me, but I still have responsibility for her.
Yeah.
So, which was kind of
So when was the divorce actually final?
It's never been finaled. We're still technically
still
married.
not final. So it's child custody and divorce.
Yeah, we've never gotten past child custody, so we've never been able to sort anything else out. So, yeah, like it's really trying to project forward. Like, I'm really holding out a lot of hopes for the beginning of November here, that hopefully the court system's seen enough of this, and like the beginning of November is going to be our first trial, 2-hour trial in front of a judge. So she's going to get an hour on the stand, and I'm going to get an hour on the stand. And hopefully that'll flush out a lot more of the problems that we're not getting to heard in the 15-minute morning chambers that we've had in the past.
So, at what point did you learn or did you realize her behavior was an attempt to alienate you from the children? Like, did you learn about that through research, or how did you figure that piece out?
I have a friend that I kind of have as a confidant that I always bounce off what's happening. One of my biggest fears with this is that it's true. I'm this abusive parent. I'm the one that's causing the problems. I'm the one that's leading to all these issues. So I really try to make sure that I keep this a couple people in my, I guess, bent that have no problem telling me like, hey, you know what? You are being a jerk. No, you know what? You're doing something wrong. So this person's been kind of with me all along, and they exclaim like, no, like you should really be putting forward to the court that you feel like you're being alienated. And like I have mentioned it in the courts a couple times, but really where we're at, the system's not hearing it yet. Like they're just not there to understand that concept.
Right.
And I would say she pointed that out within the first year. So, but and like this person, she's known both of us since we started our relationship. So she's gotten to see all the different markers, all the different narcissistic tactics, the isolation, the control, right? So that's when she'd kind of put it forward. And then I would say within the first year and a half, that was enough time to heal where I could sit back and look at all the past events and be like, you know what? This is actually kind of happening. So both the parental alienation and one of the other things that we're kind of keeping an eye on is Munchausen.
Yeah.
Where it feels like they're like one of the tactics that's kind of used is like giving the kids the impression that they have a problem when they don't. So then it just amplifies the situation because now you have one parent that's saying, you know what, I don't think there's a problem. And you got the other parent saying, yeah, there's a problem. Well, unfortunately, with our medical system, whichever parent gets to that doctor first with their diagnosis usually gets it. So then really you're stonewalled. There's no moving forward with that. It's gotten to be extremely difficult, like where I'm always having to follow up afterwards with different medical professionals because like I think the processes in the medical side haven't been followed properly. So even though the clinic knows that I'm supposed to be included, I don't want him in the room for my safety. I'm scared of him. So then I'm not even included in the diagnosis. Last time around, I had phoned the clinic and said like, hey, she's coming in. I want to be part of this diagnosis. And the doctor's like, well, she won't let you in the room. You can't attend. Oh, okay, well then put me on the phone. Well, she won't let you be on the phone while we're chatting. I'll phone you afterwards. And that's when I explained to the doctor, who then had already given her a prescription. I explained to her, I'm like, okay, I don't think our child has these problems. I think she could really just use some therapy, but you've already given your diagnosis and you've already given her a prescription. So what do I do now?
Yeah.
And then there's really nothing left. So, and that's, and it's never like alienation is just one big, oh, wow, this is evident. Hey, everybody, look, you can see it. It's a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. And it's just, it's like water on a stone in the ocean, it just keeps on happening. And over time, it does wear you down.
So if you can, I mean, it's so hard to try to understand if there's narcissistic tendencies, like what was the trigger, right? And there's really, in so many of the cases that I speak with, so many families, there's nothing. And the reality is, your kids were pretty young when you guys separated. But the reality is, in a lot of families, the alienation starts in the household. And so when that relationship ends, it's much easier for those children to align with that alienating parent because they've already been instilling those behaviors into the children prior to the separation?
Mhm.
It's really a little bit harder to tell with your kids because they are young, but there might have been some indications. Did you notice any of that?
Well, I would say just the way the rotation that I used to work while we were together made it even easier. 'Cause, like, working in the oil field, it's 2 weeks at home, 2 weeks away, that really all the kids know is her as the present parent, and I'm always the one that just comes in. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, because of my demeanor, I always ended up having to be the structured parent. I'm the one that's, "Okay, no, you can't run around and throw stuff all over the place." Um, and so that really made it easier for her to kind of steer the kids into thinking that mom's the priority, mom's amazing, mom's all these great things, but how come mom's not looking after your hair? How come mom's not trimming your nails? How come mom's not taking you to the dentist? Does mom realize that you can't see the school board? Like, it's and there's been quite a few incidences, and like there's been some serious situations where even I dropped the ball. Like, looking back now, I should have been a lot more forceful with certain situations. And like, this one still really bothers me. While we were together, I had found out that because there was the two smallest ones, they were still in their crib, and the other four were then they couldn't ride the bus because they were too small. So she had to take the smallest or the older kids to the next town to take to school. And I had found out that she was just leaving the two smallest in the crib, loading up the other four, and driving 15 minutes to drop the other ones off to school to come back. And like, I came off shift, and I remember I looked at her, I'm like, "What are you doing? This isn't safe. What do you like?
Yeah.
This is not." And really, the response I got out of that was, "Well, I'd like to see you do any better. Why don't you just come home and you do this?" And then at that turn, I looked at her. I'm like, "If that's the case," I says, "there's a few solutions. I can come home and I can be present and I can do this to make your life easier." I says, "We can hire somebody. I make enough money. Let's hire help. Or
Yeah.
why aren't your parents here? They're only a half an hour away. Like, why can't your mom stay with you? Like, at least stay in the bottom. Like, we had enough room. She could have stayed in the spare room. Like, try to help each other out." But it was just that, like, it always boiled down to, we don't have enough money. We can't do this. I don't know if it was a pride thing, because we did have them and we could have asked for the help. But that situation right there, it was like I really had no control left over my household, like, even while we were together. So it had been there, but it definitely did take the removing yourself from that situation to identify what was actually happening.
What do you have to say to other parents that are going through this? Like, what did you learn from it? What do you think? I know you just mentioned how you could have done something differently, but what is the takeaway? And what do you ultimately want when you go to court in November? What are you ultimately looking for with your relationship with the kids and your time with them?
Truthfully, my goal is to get back to our original 2-4-6-2-4 non-schedule. That was just easier on everybody. It did develop more one-on-one time with every kid to kind of just be more of a present parent. But really, with the depth of the issues that are happening, I've had other people approach me, because I've never gotten past of, "Hey, I think we should just do 50-50. I think it's the best." I'm starting to get outside sources saying that we're concerned about the stability of mom, to maybe you should be taking as the primary. So I'm hoping for 50-50. Reality of the situation, full custody would probably end up being the more of the better solution for the children. But yeah, it's gotten to be such a mess that I walk into my lawyer's office and I'm like, I don't know, what is the most adult thing we can possibly try to accomplish here.
Yeah.
I would say for people that are dealing with this situation, stay calm, even though it's really, really hard sometimes. Like, there's been so many times where it's like, you know what, here's the towel, throw it in. Is this really what the next 15 years of my life is going to look like? But if there's still a shred of hope, hold on to it. Like it's, you're going to go through the ups and downs. You're going to have a lot of really hard times, but like, if you can get through to that end where at least you can get to a confident part where you can tell yourself, I did everything. I did everything I could possibly do to give you a better life, because when those kids are 18 and they're looking at you, why weren't you there? You can say, here's the documents. This is what I did. I'm sorry I couldn't keep on going. I had to save myself. Which kind of really, maybe I'll end this with a piece of advice that I was given years ago, where I was sitting in my boss's office and I was having a really hard go, and I'd kind of explained to him what was going on. And he looked at me and he's like, who's the most important person in your life? And I said, well, like my kids. And he's like, you are absolutely wrong. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you are the most important person in your life. He's like, you have to look after yourself and then everybody else after that. So even though it's a big fight, don't lose yourself.
It's a great close, and that's something we always ask is make sure you're taking care of yourself and what are you doing. So that's a big piece, and it keeps you stable and it keeps you focused. And when this fight ultimately comes to an end and as you do get more time with your kids, you'll be in a safe place emotionally where you can give them the best of yourself to them.
So hopefully there's a conclusion.
Yep. Well, we're looking forward to staying updated on this, and we appreciate you taking the time and joining us, and we will let you know when this airs. But if you have any questions, feel to reach out to us. And again, thank you so much for your time, and good luck, and keep me posted.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me, and I really enjoy seeing all the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Konrad. Okay, you have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Bye. Help you navigate your family challenges. So remember, sailing is a journey, and reaching out for help is a sign of strength. You're not alone. If you found today's